change the filters on a slim scrub, the first thing you do is depressurize the unit if it's pressurized. That means turn the feed water supply off, and if it's connected to a tank with a float valve and the tank is full, just push down on the float valve momentarily and it'll relieve the pressure from the output side of this filter. If you're using one of these commercial style float valves, just push up on it and that'll relieve the pressure on the output side of this filter. Once the pressure is relieved, all you need to do is put this filter wrench in it and turn it counterclockwise. Real simple. And spin the filter off. Oh, might as well do the sediment too. I'll show you, just so you know where they go. Place the head of the filter down. So you'll pull the sediment filter out, and you'll pull the carbon filter out. Oop. Like that. These will probably be a little bit dirty and stained depending on your feed water quality. Feel free to put a little dish soap in there, scrub them out. If you can get your hand in there, great. Rinse all the soap out when you're done though. Don't pump soap through new filters. So then just put a new sediment filter back in. Put a new carbon filter back in. You're going to want to take a little bit of the silicone grease, this food grade silicone lubricant, and just put a little on the O-rings. You're welcome to pull the O-rings out too and clean them if this thing is really dirty because the filters hadn't gotten changed in a while. You can just pull them out there with your nail. You can wipe them down under water and then reinstall them. And just take a little bit of the silicone grease, put it around the top one and the bottom one, and do the same thing for the carbon filter as well. This is going to ensure that it's easy to get these sumps off later when you change these filters again. If you don't grease these O-rings, they really can, the scale can build up on them and they kind of get welded to the housing and they can be difficult to get off. Okay, and then simply reinstall the filters. Put them on, spin them clockwise, like so. Make sure you have both O-rings in the right place. Now, these are made to be hand tightened only, but if you're not strong enough or you're injured, feel free to use the filter wrench, just don't over torque them. I mean, you're going to turn it about a 1/4 inch tops, maybe a 1/2 inch on these taller ones. And that's it. Reconnect your input plumbing, reconnect your output plumbing if you've disconnected it, and you're off to the races. Now, at this point, we should talk about these units come with a spun polypropylene sediment filter. They can come typically with a white carbon block, which is coconut carbon or KDF carbon, depending on what you ordered online or you ordered from a store. There's a few options of the filters you can put into a slim scrub. Depending on what it comes with, it doesn't mean you have to stick with it. You want to match up the filters to your feed water supply. So we've got 3 carbons to choose from. If you're dealing with chlorine, you can get away with using one of these white carbons or one of these eco green carbons. Same exact performance. They're both coconut shell and they're great for chlorine, and they're a good value for the money. If you have chloramine or well water that may have some bacteria, lead, hydrogen sulfide, other heavy metals, iron, manganese, the KDF 85 carbon filter is the one to use. It will also do very well with chlorine. It'll also get rid of chloramine and all these other elements. So if you're not on a chlorinated water supply, you probably should use the KDF 85 carbon filter. It'll do everything these do plus more. But if you're only on a tap water chlorine environment, you can get away with using these just fine. They work great. So that's for the carbon filter. For the sediment filter side of things, you got 2 choices. You can go pleated or you can go a spun polypropylene sediment. Now the spun polypropylene sediments have a really thick filter core. This is about 5/8 of an inch, maybe almost 3/4. So it can hold a lot of dirt. The water's going to go all the way, has to go all the way through this thick filter core before it can come out, which is unlike a pleated filter. Is like a big paper towel. I have one that's opened up here. You can kind of see it, fanned open. And the water has to pass through it this way. But look at how thin that filter core is. And that's why they have such low pressure drop. Well, it's easy for water to go right through a pleated filter. But there's a ton of surface area, you can see, when you open it up, all the folds. And especially a 20-inch pleated filter, it's got twice, this is a 10-inch one right here. So they're different kind of sediment filters. If you're on a really, let's say, turbid water supply, you got a lot of sediment in there, like a well, shallow well, or you have a pipe in front of the building that is corroding, or corroded, and it's giving off a lot of rust, or old galvanized pipes in the building that you're in, then these spun polypropylenes really are the way to go. But if you've got a pretty clean water supply, then you can get away with using pleated. The real reason for using a pleated is the pressure drop. So if your water supply has a really low water pressure and you're having trouble getting 2 gallons a minute out of a slime scrub, the pleated water filter may help out a lot because you won't get as much pressure drop through the filters. So 2 options. 99% of the time though, the way to go on a slim scrub is a nice thick spun poly sediment filter.